capillaries. Ooh. Wait, I got a question for you. Okay, here's a question. How many miles of blood vessels do you have in your body? How many miles of blood vessels do you have in your body? 10 miles? Higher. Higher.
It's like wrapped around.
Higher than 50. Keep going.
Yes.
Keep going.
1,000.
You said wrap around something. Wrap around what?
Wrapped around my wrist.
How many times?
Twice.
Twice. 2.5 times. The blood vessels, the length of the blood vessels in your body can wrap around the earth 2.5 times. It's right at 60,000 miles worth of blood vessels that are in your body. How does it fit? That's a great question. Oh, you don't have a ruler. You don't have a ruler. All right, so let's think about this for just a second. The smallest mark on the ruler is how much? Say it again. A millimeter. That's the smallest mark on the ruler, right? Millimeters. Okay, with me? On that meter stick, that piece of wood, there would be 999 little lines dividing that meter up into 1,000 seconds. 1 millimeter, the distance between two of those lines. Okay? Now, take that millimeter and divide that out 1,000 times. Put another 999 lines between those two smallest lines on your meter stick. Now you got 1 million lines on that meter stick. Now you're starting to approach how thin the blood vessels are. Okay? All right. So a blood vessel, like a capillary, is 10 micrometers, 10 to the minus 5 meters across. A red blood cell is 7.5 nanometers all the way across. 7.5 nanometers. I'm sorry, yeah, nanometers. Nanometers. So, ooh, I messed that up. This is only 10 nanometers across. Nano is 10 to the minus 9. Whoopsie doodle. I don't know what I did. I squeezed my mouse. I did something. Practice. What did I do? We're going to pretend that this is 1 centimeter from here to here. That this is the smallest line there is. Okay? On the ruler. Okay? I want you to put 999 lines between these two things, between here and here. 999 lines. That gets you down to micrometers. Okay? And then you got to take the distance between those two little gaps, and you got to put 999 more lines in there to get to nanometers. Okay? 10 to the minus 8. I said 10 to the minus 5 earlier, I messed up. 10 to the minus 8 is 10 nanometers. Okay? 1 billion little marks on a meter. Alright? And you're talking about 10 of them. It's the width of the capillary. Pretty small. Yes. 2.5 times. Wow-wee! Kazooie! Alright? Now, next thing that we're gonna learn about starting next week, is gonna be that green stuff. Okay? What's different about the green stuff that's from this other stuff?
It's red. You got it.
It's green?
Oh,
Is that what? It's just green?
and you got
And it's got what?
a little bit.
The little fat things in the middle of it? This little thing here, it's called lymph nodes. Okay. But what do you notice about this? Start at the heart, it goes out these big blood vessels, down, 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 down. Woo! Here we go. Okay, and then you get into the little capillaries. And then what does it do? Bing, 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 back, 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 back to the heart. That's why they call this the circulatory system. The blood circulates. Notice there is no green around, it's just green going to one direction. Okay, we'll get into that later. Okay, we'll get into that another day. Say next Thursday. Okay, you should know these terminologies here. Okay, your blood vessels, with the exception of the capillaries, have these things, they're called tunics. I wish I could tell you why they're called tunics. I have no idea. Other than that, maybe, does anybody know what a tunic is from ancient days?
That was like that white gown that the Greeks,
toga,
yeah, the Greeks and the
tunic
Romans
thing.
used to wear.
It wasn't really a toga, but the tunic was kind of the whole wrapped around, like over your shoulders. So wrapping around things, so the tunica intima. What do you suppose that would be?
Inside.
Who said inside? I like that. It's the most internal portion. Okay, and then you have the tunica media and then the tunica externa. Excuse me, it's all right. All right. This picture is on the post-lab assignment, I think. Is it not? Those of you that have at least tried this. I think you did. Okay. Look at this area right here. Well, you see my little mouse movement? Look at this little guy right here. You see it? This is the smooth muscle right here. Look how thick the smooth muscle is in an artery versus the smooth muscle in a vein. Yes? Okay. Also, one thing I want to try to point to you, you will see this again and again and again and again and again and again. A lumen. Okay? The lumen, whether it is a digestive tract, whether it is the respiratory tract, whether it is the urinary tract, whether it's a blood vessel, the lumen is the space. The lumen is the space. It's not pointing, that is not pointing to the wall of the artery. The lumen is just the space in the inside. Okay? That's where the blood would flow through the lumen of the artery. Food passes through the lumen of the digestive tract. Air passes through the lumen of the trachea. Your urine passes through the lumen of the urethra, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? The lumen is the whole. So, when red blood cells are being produced in the bone marrow, they go into the veins or the arteries? They'll go into the arteries. No, maybe they. I don't know the answer. My guess is it would probably go to the veins. I think in the veins because they would be most likely the oxygen instead of that. I think they're gonna go in the venous supply. I think everything tracks back out of the venous supply. That's a great question. I actually don't know the answer. I'm sorry. I don't mind admitting when I don't know the answer. Okay, there was something else on the previous slide. No, I lied. That's not something. Boom, 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 boom. What I'm gonna do real quick, I'm gonna see if I can find which, it's that picture right there. Okay. Describe what you see. Describe what you see.
oval?
It's purple. Okay.
It's a whole.
This one is what? It's thicker. What did you say?
It's a whole.
It's oval. What about this? I don't know what that is. The reason I bring this up, can you see that looks, the vein on the right? Notice how it's not an oval, it's lost its shape. It has quote unquote collapsed, yes? So the reason that the veins collapse is that they don't have this thick purple area here. This is the smooth muscle.
Why do people say their veins roll?
That's why veins roll, exactly. There's not enough tension in the veins to get them to be able to get the, to be able to pull the needle through or whatever. The vein will just collapse in a lot of cases. Okay, so we go back. Go back to this middle slide here. So that darker purple that made the oval, that's this layer right here. Smooth muscle. Okay. Notice it's much thinner in a vein than it is in an artery. Okay, yes? Okay, I want to make sure I point that out. Okay, the tunica intima, it's called that because it's the contact with the blood. Intimate contact with the blood. Now, do you guys remember the term simple squamous epithelium? You remember that term, simple squamous epithelium? Sorry, having acid reflux. Okay, so it's that tissue, but we now call it endothelium. What does endo mean? Inside. Epi means outside, but it's the same kind of cells that just happen to line the inside of the blood vessels. What do you suppose it means to say it's continuous with the endocardium? What do you suppose that means? So, Jasmine said connects. What?
It's going in.
Yes. So, I don't have a real good example that most of you are going to be able to understand, but I can think of. But have you ever had a piece of carpet in your house extend past the doorway? You know what I mean? It's just like it kind of comes in the door a little bit, into the room. So that piece of carpet extending from one room into the next is kind of what we mean by continuous. So the blood vessels, they had like say on the inferior or superior vena cava, the things that come back to the heart, or leaving the heart going out into the aorta. You would want to have that be a smooth transition, right? Because you don't need blood cells collecting at these junction points, right? So you have this, if that's what they mean by continuous, it's this lining lines the entire circuit, so to speak. Okay, so that there's no place for it to get clumpy. You have like in my house or in that room on the way out this door, there's a little seam between the two. It's the top floor here and the top floor there, but there's a seam between the tiles, right? You wouldn't want to have that if we went from this room being the heart to that being the aorta. You wouldn't want to have a seam there for the red blood cells to gather on, to collect on, to cause a bump in the road, so to speak. Okay? You don't want to have any speed bumps when you're talking about the circular places. Okay? I don't know why I put that on there twice. I did. I skipped over the medium. Whoops. Okay. I will never, ever, 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 ever call it the tunica adventitia. I will never call it that. I will always call it the tunica externa. I just need you to be familiar with the word tunica adventitia. Okay.
Why would they call it that?
I don't know.
Is it 'cause it's like?
It's a Latin thing. Back when doctors were, I don't know. I don't know what it's called. Why it's called that. I don't even know what advent other than I know what it means when you got the calendar.
I
do want you to, I didn't highlight this, but I want you to know the prefix or the root word VAS. Okay? Because you're gonna see this frequently. What is VAS? As in vascular. So VAS is vessel. Okay, so vasoconstriction. You heard that term before? You ever heard of vasoconstriction? Okay. You said it's warm in here. The veins on the back of my hand would tend to agree with you that it's warm in here. This is vasodilation. Okay, so my blood vessels are wide open so that I can get more of the blood to the skin to try to cool off. That's why we sweat. So vasodilation is going to open the blood vessels. So what is vasoconstriction going to do? Tighten them up, narrow them down. Okay, so in the wintertime, have you ever noticed, have you ever seen that the veins, that like in the summertime, they pop out of the back of your hand, and then in the wintertime, you're like, where'd they go? Okay? That's because it's cold outside. Right? Cold hands, warm heart. Right? That's an actual thing. What needs to stay, what part of your body needs to maintain temperature? Where's the important stuff?
The trunk.
Right here. See, I'm doing a really good job keeping mine warm, baby. I got lots of insulation. What's that? I take it serious. Right? If you were to suffer frostbite, what are the first parts of your body that suffer from frostbite?
Toes and
Fingers and toes. Your extremities. Okay? Because the blood is going to be pulled back into the core of the body where the internal organs are, and that will be done partially by vasoconstriction. VAS means vessel. Okay, so,
Is that why, like, when somebody get their finger or something amputated, then they put it in the freezer or like a little cold, and then they
part of the reason, yes. It's partly to prevent tissue death because cold temperatures will slow down metabolism. And in an amputated finger or amputated hand or whatever, the colder it is, the more likely you're going to have less tissue death. Okay. How long does it take for somebody to drown?
2 minutes. I don't know.
4 to 8 minutes? 7 minutes, something you said? Right? So, this happened about the time you were born. Plane went off the end of the runway into the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. They pulled somebody out of the river, out of the water of the river, not like they were in the plane, with a plane full of water. They pulled them out, unconscious, and revived them 45 minutes after they went into the water. No damage was done. None. Guy went on with a nice happy life.
How's that even
He was
happen?
under the water, he was under that wicked ass ice cold water, 34 degrees, for 45 minutes. Slowed his metabolism down, and was able to be resuscitated.
So they could have saved Jack.
There was enough on the room on that door.
What just fell on me? I did. Oh, all right. What are we doing? Oh, I know what I was going to say. We're still talking about bags. Bags. All right. This is a little touchy subject for the men in the room. The vasectomy. Snip, snip, they said. Yeah. Doesn't hurt. My wife got pregnant with number 4, and she says, "Ow, go." She You won't have any after 3. Because there was about a 5-year gap between number 3 and number 4. I hate you! You're going to the fix-it store! So they cut the vast deference, which you'll learn about later. Alright, you notice how much of that was highlighted, right? That's because it's all in the next one. So you have these things called elastic arteries, muscular arteries, and arterial. Why, oh why, are there elastic arteries? Thank you. Told you it was gonna be too hard to hear me. Elastic arteries. What does it mean to be elastic?
Stretchy.
Expand. Okay. How many of you have ever taken somebody's blood pressure? Like with a stethoscope, the whole 9 yards. A stethoscope on the arm. What do you hear? So what is the sound that a heart, when I say heartbeat, what do you think of? Make the sound. Pum, 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 right? That's the sound that you think of when I say heartbeat, okay? In my biology 1 class today, we were doing blood pressures. We should be doing that tonight, but I just didn't tell you about that tonight. Maybe we'll do it next night, okay? I've just had the week from hell. I didn't want to be messing with any of that stuff today, okay? So, you put the big old blood pressure cuff on, the sphygmomanometer that goes on your arm, and you listen through a stethoscope right at the joint. This is where the brachial artery is, okay? And so, one of the coolest things, I mean the best analogy that I can come up with to explain to you how this thing called a pulse is. How do they show water moving through a hose in a cartoon? The hose has got this little bulge, it looks like a little bulge, and it moves along, right? A Looney Tunes, that's exactly what I'm talking about, all right? Yes? Are we all in the same mental picture? Because that's how your blood goes through your body. Exactly the same way. That ventricle contracts, it goes squeeze, and that blood leaves out in a pulse and a burst of blood coming out into the aorta. So what does the aorta do? It expands out. And as that blood, and because the muscle, the smooth muscle, I can't speak, because the smooth muscle that's in there, it'll pull back, the elastic part of this will pull back, and the blood keeps moving through the system. Now, when you go out to your wrist to take the pulse here, or the pulse in the neck, is it going thump, 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 thump through the neck, or through the wrist? No, it's tap, 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 because the sounds are the valves closing. Remember from the quiz? Sounds are from the valves closing. Okay? When you get out here to the arteries out in the extremities, all that's being detected is that bulge of bulge of blood coming through these elastic arteries. Okay? The part of the stethoscope that listens to will detect that pop. And when you take the blood pressure, what you're listening for is the change of that sound. So you pump up the cup, you pump it up nice and tight, okay? And